Alright, should be live, hopefully. Give it a sec. Here. Yep, alright. 13 love, $13, 13 wisdom, 13 respect. This is your creation 13. Today we're going to kind of talk about a real basic concept. There's a lot that you can talk about with this. But it's just something that I'm just consistently seeing a pattern with the stars and the planets. I'm actually studying the zodiac signs in the Bible and around different cultures, and I've come to the conclusion that the stars and planets really control a lot of what we experience down here, right? How we view things, how we observe things, things of that nature. It brings me to the ideas of Noah's Ark, with gathering two of every animal, right? So they can produce. It reminds me of the zodiac, and it also reminds me that the animals were on the earth as well before humans were here, right? And it goes into a lot of basic ideas and realizations, that the Bible is talking about the stars and the planets, right? The heavenly hosts and the zodiac signs, and talking about the 4 seasons and the changes that happen all the time, right? It wasn't until I started experimenting with the moon, right? Experimenting with the moon and looking at the manifestation process when the new moon starts, right? And then you see a progress, see what kind of manifestation has happened when it peaks to the half moon, and then you see your full manifestation happen during the full moon. You see what you have been manifesting, putting your will and intent in, and seeing it blossom and grow, right, into something, right? And you're also learning about different things every day, right? You will see a consistent growth in your manifestation, but you will also see all these little trials, tribulations, and your emotions just kind of are on a certain wavelength. And it's not just the moon, but it's also with the stars and the planets, the constellations, right? It blows my mind. Like, you'd have to literally you'd have to spend a good, 5 or 10 years studying the zodiac signs and different positionings based on the 4 seasons, right? Because we got spring. Well, we got spring, fall, winter. Oh man, what's the other one? Summer. Spring, summer, fall, winter. There we go. I'm tired, man. But the constellations are different, and as well as we go throughout the years, there's different signs that dominate. Like with the sun dominates through the spring and the summer, and then the sun starts to not be as dominant in the fall, and then in the winter time, that's when the sun loses its weakest point, and it's just kind of dormant, and the moon begins to be the dominating force until spring hits again, right? It's very interesting. The atmospheres change. I always tell everybody that during this time frame, right, when we're heading into winter, right, usually around November or so, September, really, because that's theoretically the new year is September. We migrate into within ourselves, right? We're having to do a self-reflection, a judgment of ourselves, I always go through this every year. Like the peakest point kind of goes into the darkness of the soul during the winter time, which is interesting because that's also when the sun is the weakest. So we're not getting nourished by the sun, right? So we just do a self-reflection, a self-judgment, and it helps us along the way. And I think having that spiritual awareness and through meditation and prayer, that gives us our daily bread to overcome those obstacles. They're never easy, at least they're not easy for me, to overcome those obstacles, as well as having some kind of foundation as well, which goes into with all these stars and planets controlling humanity, right? Born and raised in a Christian home, so Christ is my rock and foundation, right? But Christ is a deity, and I find this fascinating because the more and more I'm studying what I'm studying now, right? Just looking at the Bible in the new way, man, so many spirits within the Bible, right? Just the words are different, but there's many different spirits in the Bible. There's many different influences that this world does to us, right? It's bizarre. Like even praying and talking with these deities, because they're deities, right? You call them angels and demons, whatever it may be, but they're really just messengers, soulless beings. A lot of these souls look for a physical host to experience this physical reality, right? These souls are jealous that our souls are in this vessel, and we can walk about and experience this physical reality, so they get jealous. It's bizarre. It's bizarre. And it just makes me wonder about, even talking with Christ, you really have to use the power of discernment and just fill out these deities, right? For me, my experience with Christ has always been a loving mentor, a brother, a deity that's always there in my darkest moments, right? I can always call upon that, a deity. As well as in understanding that, the name Jesus means to deliver, and then Christ means the anointing. So to deliver the anointing. So this Christ deity delivers a spiritual anointment and nourishment of the soul. And it doesn't drain you or anything of that nature. So that's something to pay attention to. But I don't know. It's interesting, but I think it's important to have a guide of some kind, and to me, Christ has always worked there. With that being said, I think this is where a lot of people have to kind of understand this stuff, because I don't think people really understand the stars and the planets and the atmosphere, right? I think the New Age communities have created a blueprint of what to look at with the zodiac signs and with your house, right? Because depending on when you were born and when your soul came here, I feel that there's a connection there, right? The as above, so below. Like me personally, I feel that all the stars that we see in the heavens, our soul is one of those stars or one of those planets, right? We're attached. So when we look above, we're really seeing our true self. And then our true self is looking down at our physical experience. I do believe that. So it doesn't mean all stars and planets are separate, but I do think that we are attached in some way, but we also go through the seasons in the heavens, because if that is true, that our soul is the stars, that's huge. That's huge, because that means that as the constellations change, if they change, right? There's the ideas of how do the stars move and shape, right? It goes into the theories of how does the Earth move. I've never been to space. I don't think a lot of people have been to space, honestly. I think people have went up into the atmosphere, but never actually into space, and that's just a theory. So it's hard to say exactly how everything goes, right? All we can do is look at the 4 seasons. We know which each season the stars and the constellations change and shift. And I feel that our souls change and shift with that as well, right? Just like today, I'm extremely tired. Like, I didn't think I was even going to make it on here. I was so tired. I'm just like, man, what's going on here, right? It just gets me more and more curious how this works, right? And then it doesn't help with the fact that people have messed with witchcraft, and you got the warlocks and the witches and magic and summoning all these beings all over the place, right? Summoning zodiac signs, whatever it is, right? There's all of that throughout history. So we have all of these spirits, all of these souls from all walks of life, good ones, good deities and bad deities, walking all over the world, manipulating humanity, right? And we're beginning to really see that, at least I'm beginning to see it unfold like big time. I mean, it's been going on forever. I just never really paid attention to it. And I've talked about this before with Daniel and his supernatural life, right? Very controversial guy. But he's, as far as I can tell, he's legit. Like, he legit can talk to these spirits that possess people, right? And it's the most bizarre thing ever. And some of these people you wouldn't even think were possessed. But then all of a sudden they just kind of show up out of the blue. And it's very fascinating. I love to just do video. I think that will give people a basic idea of what we're looking at for what is real, right? And then what is fake. Because there's a lady that does the same thing Daniel does, but I don't know, I get a whole different vibe from her. It just feels fake. And that's where you have to use that power of discernment. But at the end of the day, this is just an idea video, because there's so much you can talk about with this stuff. It's just I'm really wanting to get down to the bottom of it. Somehow, I do feel the Bible, the way I'm reading it and writing, because that's what I'm doing now. I'm writing what I'm discovering in the Bible, and just putting it two and two together, because the Bible is all about astrology, but the Bible is also all about teaching us about these deities, teaching us about the soul, right? There's something I learned about that. It's right in the Bible. It's just the words have been tweaked in a way that it doesn't make sense. Like, I don't know how they created the Bible the way they did. And then we do the research on words and everything. It's a whole different book. Like, it's a beautiful book, but it's been turned into something else. And people created a religion and a worshiping tool out of it, instead of it being the book of life. Because it is the book of life, because if it teaches us about the zodiacs, signs, it teaches us about the 4 seasons, right? It teaches us about our soul and how we descended to a planet, right, which is Earth, but it teaches us how our soul descends to the earth into a physical vessel. Literally, it says that. You just have to decode the words, and then we experience this reality, this duality, right? We're always going to have a adversary, right? Satan, that word translated goes into an adversary. So we have an adversary, the duality game that is always beside us, behind us, in front of us, all four corners of the earth within our vessel. We have that adversary to kind of guide us along the way, which is just fascinating. It's just kind of, I don't know, man. It's weird. It's so weird, very weird. And then just knowing that you can summon beings, which never do. But I came across this video that's talking a lot about demonology. And only does it not, it talks about demonology, but also talks about perceived messengers as well, summoning good ones and bad ones, right? And what do you do in a church? What do you do in a church? It's the same thing. When you're praying and meditating, it's the same thing, right? You're conjuring up spirits. So I think that's where you have to use discernment in what you're doing, right? So with it being religion, is going to be Jesus Christ. So you're conjuring up the spirit of Jesus Christ. Bizarre, right? It's bizarre. Is it bad? I don't know. That's why we're having this discussion, because it makes you think and wonder, and I think that's where it confuses people, right? Because that's kind of what this video is kind of a triggering point to make you think. But never lose faith, right? That's the number one thing I always tell people. I'm like, never lose faith. The more and more I learn about stuff, my foundation is still strong, right? With me born and raised in a Christian home, having such a deep relationship with Christ, and then just continuing to have revelations, and then having my big awakening in 2010, nothing's changed with that, right? My faith has not changed. It's just that I have more knowledge and wisdom, right? And, that's just where the more you know, the more responsibilities you have, and the more discernment you need to put within your life, right? It's important, especially in this day and age, right? I think people are learning more and more that there is spirits that are heavily involved in influence humanity, to the point where people can't be people because they're so influenced by spirits, right? We got generational curses that are huge, and those are the ones that we have to break, right? Because like I said earlier, we have witches and warlocks and all that stuff that have conjured up all these spirits, right? All of these zodiac signs, all of these deities. So they're all running rampant all through planet Earth, through the multiverse. And it's just created a chaotic mess. So we have to heal and fix these portals that have been awakened within people. And I think that's the next step, is learning how to heal and fix what our ancient ancestors conjured up, all these spirits, right? There's a reason behind it. I always tell people, I'm like, if you ever want to do any research, do some research on when the Europeans, the Catholics, right, the Romans started going through and taking land, right? This can go into native territory, and they use a lot of voodoo, a lot of magic. And so when the white people, right, when the light-skinned people started coming over, they started putting curses on the land. So if the Europeans and the Romans and all them would forcefully take over the land, well, the curses of the land that the natives put on there would go to their generations, and then they would start, those spirits would start manipulating the family, future generations. That's something you can do research on, and it's hugely important, right? I got reservations all over the place, and it's cursed land. It's cursed land. And it's not just it's not just the land that surrounds me, but it's everywhere, all over the world, right? So we have to learn how to cure these if it's possible. Like, I don't do witchcraft, never will, but I would like to know how to heal those, and what to do about it. I got friends that are out there, and they say just leave it alone. They're like, just leave it alone, man. They'll follow you home if you do something. I'm like, yeah, you're probably right. So it's very interesting. So I just wanted to create this basic idea and conversation because it was on my mind. Hopefully I'll be going deeper into these conversations, because that's what we're looking at, right? The number one thing is to take care of yourself, right? It's learning how to take care of yourself, balance yourself, learn the power of surrender, so then you can break free from the bondages of family curses or the bondages of this reality, right? Because at the end of the day, despite what we're taught in church, if you went to church, and despite some of the other things that we've learned, right? You're the one that's still in control of your vessel, right? Hopefully. You're in control of your body, your meat suit. So you're also in charge of your soul, right? You're also in charge of your soul. So you can either sell your soul and then become rich and famous, like we see all around, or you can become sovereign, gain back your sovereignty, release the chains of bondages, which bondage means family curses, and any other spirits that you may have inhabited, because it happens through everything, right? If you were abused when you were young, that's a spirit. That's a conjured spirit. If you have hatred towards somebody because they abuse you or things like that, that's conjuring up a spirit, right? Aware or unaware, we conjure up spirits 24/7, right? If you get stressed, that's conjuring up the spirit of stress. If you have anxiety, that's conjuring up the spirit of anxiety. And you feed those every day. Like if you're not taking care of yourself, you're not praying, meditating, and surrendering that stuff, and getting your daily bread, well, the spirits of anxiety and depression and things like that, they get their daily bread from you, right? They get their daily bread from you. And not to make it complicated, but it's being aware, so then when things happen in your life, you kind of understand it better, right? And this goes into the stars and planets again, because they heavily influence us. Like right now, we're peaking the full moon, and we're also hitting the winter solstice, right? So December 21st is the winter solstice, 3 days of darkness, when the sun dies for 3 days, right? And it's very interesting, right? And you always feel at least for me, I always have a revelation period between the 21st and the 23rd. Revelations start to happen the 24th, 25th happens, and then the 26th begins something totally different. Like there's a revelation of some kind. Bizarre stuff. So we are heavily influenced by our surroundings. That's why it's so important to take care of yourself, learn protection, and things like that. And I got to get into that. So I'm going to probably talk about protection maybe tomorrow or the next day. Learning how to protect yourself and what to look for with that. Because there's just so much that we're not taught in school. We're not taught. We have to self-teach ourselves. And if you're on a spiritual journey, which if you're watching me, you are, there's a lot to learn. There's a lot to learn. You need to use the teachings that are all over the place, from a Buddha and, being a monk and different kind of religions and cultures like that. Or you can just do self-teaching, which is what I did, right? Because I had Christ as my foundation, I went through meditation and prayer, just had that continuous conversation with Christ, like, how do I do this? What do I do with this? And Christ would just teach me this stuff, like, hey, you need to learn how to protect yourself. Hey, you need to learn how about bondages. You need to learn on how to become sovereign again. You need to learn how to protect your soul, and release your soul from these bondages. Things like that, right? Self-taught. And if I can be self-taught, anybody can be self-taught. Not easy. You're still going to go through trials and tribulations, but it's hugely important as well. So I'm just dragging this on. So yeah. So at the end of the day, and I want to say a prayer to help whoever needs this as well. So we'll go ahead and go into prayer, and then we'll end this out. So thank you, Christ, for continuously teaching us and helping us be observant through life, helping us be diligent in what we do, and being observant in our actions, and what happens with our actions, being it good or bad. I thank you for continuously showing us love, care, forgiveness, bringing us peace when we need it, and continuously helping us seek out our being, seek out our soul, seek out that inner peace within us, and helping us open that doorway back up to the Creator, back up to the heaven within us. And I pray that you will continue to open up the hearts of those who are seeking, continue to open up the hearts of those who struggle with their faith, who struggle with their beliefs, who look for love, but don't understand your love, and or your willingness to be in their lives if they open that door. So I pray right now that anybody who's listening, that you will allow that door to open, the door of love, the door of peace, of joy, of bliss, to let that door open for you, right? Just release and let go. Surrender anything that may be troubling you, or keeping you down, or someone is keeping you down. Just let that all go, because this is your time. This is your time to reflect. This is your time to look at things that you would like to be doing. This is your time to look at opportunities to get to where you want to be in life. And this is an opportunity for you to start anew, right? To start anew, because every day is a new day, right? We're not promised tomorrow, but we can definitely let go of the past, because as every moment is spoken, we're in the present, and then the past is already behind us. So we don't have to worry about the past, right? The past is behind us. So we just continue forward with every moment, with every breath, and we thank you. Thank you for the breath. We thank you for teaching us about the breath, for teaching us about that life is special, to cherish the life that we're given, even through the trials and tribulations. Continue to teach us, Christ, that just how important this physical reality is, and that and just continue to allow us to be aware, that that there's a lot of souls that are jealous that we have these physical vessels. So that's why we need to cherish these physical vessels. We're here for a reason. Our soul's here for a reason. There's a mission, there's a task that we all are supposed to be doing, right? And we sometimes get lost and lose our way, and we lose our task at hand. So I thank you, Christ, for allowing, for showing us what our task is, to remind us what our tasks are, what our mission is, and continuing to help us be healed, be regenerated, have that time of peace, have that time of relaxation within you, right? Baptizing us in the anointing with every moment that we have conversations with you through prayer, through meditation. I thank you for that continuous connection, for that continuous door to be open if we allow it to. I just pray that, if anybody else needs healing through this, that those doors will be open right now. And I pray that you'll release some of the bondages that are on those who are struggling right now. I pray that you will break free each chain that bounds their soul, and they'll begin the surrender process and learn to let go as well. So anyways, I think that's it. So amen. All right. So let's see. We got something from Upworld, Enoch 19. Yep. And I gotta do research on Enoch too. I'm gonna continue to study the Bible first, because I'd like to do that, get that all written down with some of the revelations that I'm seeing within the Bible, and then venture out into Enoch and all the other ones. So it's gonna be a long process, but it's fun. I've always been very passionate about the Bible since I was a child, and I think it was in due time to realize what my task is, right? And just look at the patterns, right? Very passionate about the Bible and the relationship with Christ. So, that is my mission, right? It's to help people through these challenging times, right? So yeah. So anyways, and it looks like Jude 1:13. Yep, I'll be looking into that as well. I'm reading the First Kings right now. Very interesting. I had no idea just how many spirits are in First Kings, and I guess the Jezebel spirits talked about in there. So I'm really interested to see with new eyes just kind of what develops through First Kings and Second Kings. So yeah. So anyways, I hope that prayer helped you guys out there. Love yourself. Keep shining bright. We're all in this together. We're continuously learning and growing. We're seeing revelations every day, right? It's just important to take care of yourself, and be an inspiration to others as well, right? Because we're all here to help uplift each other, to learn about love and peace and being healed, right? Being free. So yeah, I could talk forever. So love yourself. Keep shining bright. I'll talk to you all later as soon as I turn this off. So there we go. All right. Good night, guys.